Jen, and I am the founder of Breakthrough, which is a life skill hub. It mainly does its business online, but I also do some stuff in the community as well. Before I get started, I would like to say a huge thank you to World Unity Week for inviting me to be a part of this amazing event. I have been taking a look at some of the other speakers, and it's absolutely amazing. First, the process it takes to put one of these things together is huge, and it's a lot of work, and I know you have a ton of volunteers, so thank you to everyone, and also just the people that contribute and make this kind of platform possible, so that we have, people like me that have a message. I've got such a wider audience thanks to people like you. So thank you very much for including me. It's an honor to be amongst such amazing professionals. Okay. All right, so what we're going to do today is we are going to talk about, my title, first of all, is Behind the Wall. And that is because, one, I lived behind a wall in Berlin, Germany, during the Cold War. Graduated from high school in 1989, which, as many of you know, is when the wall fell. And so it's just a huge, huge time in history. And I got to be there. It's very cool. I'm also going to talk about later in life when I figured out what I wanted to be when I grew up. I was working in prison. I think my dad probably would have preferred that I stay on stage and do the theater, but at least then he knew, okay, starving waitress, that's what my daughter's going to be. But yeah, nope, not so lucky, Dad, sorry. So here I am, and I get to be here following my calling, and it came from Berlin and all of those experiences and the amount of freedom and restriction. I mean, we're going to go into that in a sec. But that led to me being working in prisons and seeing just how different people's lives are impacted, and what some skills, how they can really have this amazing impact. And then later we're going to talk about more about your four walls and my four walls, like our current situation, and that's how I'm going to tie it all together. Okay, so let's see. First of all, I want to say, when I was working in prison, I would go in, and at the beginning of each class, they all lasted about 3 months, 180-hour curriculum, the main one that I facilitated, and I would go in and I'd say to these usually 20 inmates, I am trying to impact just one of you. And they all look at me like, what? Are you kidding? Like, what about me? And the cool thing is that it kind of had a little side effect, which I wasn't really counting on, was that they all really were fighting to be that one person that showed me that they got it, that I was impacting them. So that was cool. But the fact is that I realized going in that if I impact one life, if I have some kind of positive change and show what good stress management and anger management can do, or conflict resolution, or communication. I mean, think about the impact that has on their home life, and then their ability to find jobs and work. There were some great studies done in the 90s. As a matter of fact, Elizabeth Dole did a study, and it was one of those, just explaining that employers aren't necessarily just looking for the Harvard degrees, or the degrees from the prestige. List your prestigious school here in your country. So they're not just looking for those big degrees anymore. They're also looking for these life skills. They're looking for communication and stress management and team building and values. I mean, that all makes sense. So by providing these skills, we're like impacting not just their life. So if I'm back to that one person, that one inmate, I am impacting his life and his family, because now he's teaching. Like, okay, I don't want to just fight like that anymore. I would like to have a conversation and make things better. I'd like to work towards a common goal. I want to live my life where I am meeting needs over time, not just meeting immediate needs. And I want to work on some long-term goals. So, I mean, those are the kind of things that, it's huge. when you open up that door. It's crazy. And so it's kind of like going on top of a mountain and taking a big feather pillow and just ripping it to shreds and just watching the feathers go everywhere. You have absolutely no idea how that one impact, how that one person, how much it's going to filter through time. Feathers just go everywhere. So it's kind of similar to, spreading a rumor. Rumors are nasty. And if you spread a rumor, you never know how much damage you're going to do because you never know how far it's going to go. So the same idea, but positive. Okay. So I just want to I want to have one person that's watching, maybe comment or something. Email me. You'll get the contact information at the end later on. It'll be attached somewhere somehow, I'm sure. But I would love to hear about your conversation, because what I'm asking is not tough. I just want to change a conversation at the dinner table or at coffee with friends or at work or somewhere. Where does the conversation change where you start talking about making life skills more accessible and impacting your own family, bringing some new skills into the home? Because we're all learning every day in the Life's Great Classroom is all around you. I'm in it right now. I'm learning stuff right now. And I'm learning that it's really hard to talk to myself on the camera, so with nobody else. But and it's also really hard to keep everything else quiet, and 3 boys quiet, and birds and dogs. It's crazy. So I'm learning right now. But so the point is that if you have that conversation and say, what can I do to bring new skills and stuff in the home, that I'm going to consider success. One person. This morning, my kids and I started something new, and I've been holding off on it. I had it for the summer, but I wanted to start really having an impact on impact's my word for the day. Sidebar. So I wanted to have that conversation with them. I have 3 boys, and I wanted to start something that wasn't just about chores and what they're going to do for the day and how no more electronic time and how much TV are they spending. I want to have a conversation that's guided and that talks about, can you visualize your future? That was today's conversation. So can you just the importance of I do care what it is, just so you know, but the point is that I don't care what your answer is at this moment. I just want to have the conversation. I want you to start thinking, because I realized as they were kind of joking and getting used to the idea that in the back of their mind, they're starting to work on it. Like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. I usually make a lot of sense. That if I start being able to visualize what I want to be, then I'm going to be able to see the cues that are coming up, and then I'm going to be able to, more likely to make it happen than if I'm not thinking ahead as far as what kind of decisions I need to be making for my future. So anyway, it was a fantastic conversation. It was a great start. We just took a little bit of time. So I'm curious, what can you do in your family that can start that ball rolling? Because really that's where we can make change. That's where we affect change, is within ourselves. And then, moving forward, community, and moving forward, voting, and, there's so many different ways, but we have to start somewhere. So anyway. Just one. Okay, so let's go to Germany. I was born in Berlin. My dad was a pilot for Pan Am, so I got to fly everywhere for free. As a matter of fact, I found where to go. Uh-oh. Where to go? It's somewhere here. Maybe not. Yes, it is. Okay. I found it. Look what I found. I was rummaging through stuff, and I was like, oh, this is perfect. I'll show it. So this was a ticket, and I got to just talk about freedom. Even before I was 18, I could just take one of these tickets, and I would just write where I wanted to go, as long as it was signed by Dad. It had his ID number and everything. I'd say where I wanted to go and wanted to go which airport, and they would take it. And sometimes I would even have little vouchers to be able to upgrade and sit in first class, which was really cool, especially in Pan Am, such a classic airline. Anyway, good times. So I was really lucky. I was really lucky, and I experienced Germany, where if you think about it, you've got all these different cultures in Berlin because it was occupied by multiple countries. So you had Great Britain, and you had France, and you had America, and Russia, and you had all these different culture, and with all of these different cultures also came a good learning curve. I want to say, it's kind of like if you didn't understand someone's social norm, then it was like, oh well, they're not from my country. Give you some allowance. So it was interesting as I was learning, what was acceptable and what wasn't. That I had that kind of freedom to make mistakes and still feel really confident and secure and interesting. So I appreciated that about Germany. And to be honest, like, it's really hard to explain it because what it was like living in Berlin, because it was so magical. It was like almost like a movie in retrospect, when I'm thinking back on it, because it was like, we would take the duty train to be able to go play sports, and that would leave at all times of the night. It would never leave at the same time. It would stop and go on the way into West Germany, so that people wouldn't know where the train was when we would get there. So sometimes we'd get there at 4 in the morning. Sometimes we'd get there at 11. Hopefully in time for our game. But it was just a lot of fun, and with that, that idea of security, also came this other level of awareness that I had to have really young, that my actions have an impact on not just me and my family. It matters wherever you are, right? But there was this heightened level where it was like, my friend accidentally pulled the emergency brake on the duty train, and it was a security issue because now we were stopped where we weren't supposed to be. Of course they radio and all of that good stuff, but it was like a huge deal. And there was fears of are we going to get asked to leave the country, and that never happened. And but it was there was different things to be concerned about. Let's put it that way. And another example of that was I'm going to just quickly share that. So my friend and I, when we were 16, went to the Bonsai. It's this amazing lake that we just kind of chill out and sunbathe and have a good time. And on our way home, we took the wrong bus. We took it the wrong way. It was the right bus. But that doesn't help if you're going the wrong way. And we got to the end of the line, and they asked us to, we can't stay on the bus. We have to go on this other bus. That took us then to the end of that line, which took us to a Vanagon, which, because the line was broken, they were working on the roads, we had to take the small Vanagon, which was weird, right? Because you would go from this big city bus, or city transit bus, to a little Vanagon that's very similar to what we had when I was growing up. And it just seemed very sketchy, kind of scary. And so we started wondering what was going on. And I was starting to get nervous about when we were going to get home and how we'd get home before cell phones and GPS. Oh, those were the days, right? So anyway, we get to this cul-de-sac, and a lady's sitting there, and she said, "Oh, you should go, while you're here, take advantage of this time and go look at the wall, because there's this break in the wall." And and there was. We walked back, and if you haven't seen the wall, you can imagine it. There's these huge sections that got lowered down. So if you can imagine, one of the sections just wasn't there, and it had barbed wire to prevent people from easily passing. And so we went to go look at it, and sure enough, on the other side is this huge. It's a watchtower, and so they're like, go and they take this huge thing, and they're starting to point it to us, and we're freaking out, and we're like, "Oh my God, what's that?" To us, it was like this huge gun. It's like some kind of cannon or something that was gonna warn us. We didn't. I personally didn't think we were going to get shot, but definitely a warning. It was most likely, in my rational brain now, thinking back, probably a camera. Just so you know. But anyway, it's huge. But growing up, and being a teenager and superhuman, and nothing can possibly happen to you, I jumped over and I took a picture anyway. And then, in my infinite wisdom, my friend asked me to take her picture as well. And so I did it again because being stupid once wasn't enough. Anyway, pushing limits and boundaries, right? So anyway, so I bring all of that up because I recognize that there's a lot of countries that are represented here at World Unity Week, and people that are watching that come from countries that are under duress and not as secure as I would hope that they could be. And so I want to just, first of all, wish you well, and then honor that, I guess. And so, but also that kind of maybe you can compare that experience to that heightened security. There's just a different level of awareness that happens. And the fact that I was American and I was there and I was free and able to make these choices and able to take these pictures and stay at the Bonsai and travel, write my own tickets. It was a big deal. And when I left to go, I graduated early, so it was before the wall fell. And then actually, when I was back in college, I was in my dorm and I was walking across the hall and I saw this little TV and there were people dancing on the wall. Like, what the hell are you watching? Sorry. And I'm like, what are you watching? And it was people on the wall. And so within the week, I withdrew from school and just flew over right away because I just had to be a part of it. My friends were still in school there, and this amazing point in history was happening. So I was there for the Brandenburg Gate when it opened, and I got shuffled in with my friend Dawn, and we were like little sardines, and it was wet and cold and amazing, absolutely amazing. No passport, no idea how to get home, but we found the U-Bahn, and it was so strange. It was really crazy. The U-Bahn and the train was just, completely void of any character whatsoever on that side. And then, as soon as you crossed over, you got all that glitz and glamour of the West. It was a big difference. It was changed. And then I got to, dance on the wall to bring in 1990. So it's, it was a crazy experience. So going from that wall then to the wall in, fast forward in the early 90s, I started working for a program that taught in prison and taught social skills in prison. And this company had started out with a curriculum for the workforce. It's actually called Workforce. And my aunt was actually the author of the curriculum, and it was amazing. It helped reduce the recidivism rate by 80%, high-risk offenders. Super, super important and huge. And I got to be a part of it, and I really, again, felt blessed. And one of the things that happened is that, I'd go in and I'd facilitate these courses and this curriculum, and I'd see how their lives were changing just with the way they communicated or the way that they talked about their outlook, what could potentially be next for them. And it was motivating, definitely motivating to see the change and to hear the speeches at the graduations, and that was fantastic. The thing that really stuck with me though was that they would, without fail, at least a third of the class would ask me, why didn't we learn this sooner? And it wasn't for the reason that they were saying, I probably wouldn't have committed crime if I learned this. It wasn't anything that grandiose, but they wanted to know because it was that impactful for them that they wish they had known some of these things earlier. And so, I didn't really have an answer for them. I don't know why society says, sports can have coaches and you can have teachers and professors, but life skills, just learn that at home. The classroom is just so uneven, it's not fair. So I don't have an answer for them. But my company did, and their answer was to then open up an alternative school for teen moms. So then I got to go pilot a project in the community. Now, this was a huge turning point for me because now I was part of, a different type of change. I got to start networking with this amazing group of people, headed by one of my favorite people in the world. I call him my Michael. My Michael has a way about him that inspires you to be a better person. Better than you ever thought you could be. And I'm so grateful for that time and experience to see what it's like to be part of a team that really supports and initiates and inspires growth for everyone. He was never afraid of being outshined. It was kind of like, here's the spotlight, you go. And Michael knew and got that it wasn't just the strength in numbers. It was empowering to feel worthy and successful. It made me want to do more and be more, and it worked. I really think that is a huge part of why I'm continuing the work I do. Is I just have that faith that one person, you can make a difference. That one person can make a difference. So here I am. Thank you, Michael. Love you. And he's ruined me for life, though. Actually, I just have to sidebar. I do want to say, I can no longer work for anybody who tries to climb up a ladder over me. Has nothing to do with prestige. It has nothing to do with them getting further along. If it's a competition at work, you don't have a common goal. It's such a waste of time. It's so hard. Anyway, okay, sidebar. Okay, so here I am, and now we're working on these with these teen moms and GEDs, same curriculum that we worked with the inmates. Now we've rewritten it a little bit so that it applies to teens and to youth. I also did a pilot at the high school itself, and then some other smaller schools. We started branching out. It was really a cool time. And the interesting thing is that, again, 1/3 of them would ask me a question that, once again, I didn't have an answer to. And that question was, how do I bring these skills home? Darn it. I got stumped again. How does this keep happening? So now I have, why didn't we learn this sooner? How do I bring these skills home? Because the fact is that it's true. If I think about, when I learn something new in my child, I'd go to my dinner table and I'd say, hey, I learned this new way of managing my stress. We need to watch what we eat, limit the sugar and limit the salt. I'd have a conversation with my mom. We'd look up more information. We'd go to the library. And that was them. But for these girls, these teen moms, they were like trying to go home, and then they were getting laughed at, or don't use that stuff that you learned from the community center. Don't bother me. And so they were really frustrated as they're like realizing and recognizing the value of some of these skills and wanting to pass them on to their kids. But then, not being able to practice at home. It was like, it was really big. So then, of course, I like a challenge. So I'm like, okay, so how do I bring this stuff into the home? It stayed there for a while. I never lost that question, and I need to fast forward now, because what happened is I ended up leaving that job. We moved back down to California from Oregon, and I had to finish my degree. I had to go back to college, because now I knew what I needed, and I'd already found the ceiling, and I didn't like it. I'd gone to work with senators and do team meetings and all that stuff because of my Michael. And I got to be part of some really amazing things, and I thought, wow, this cannot be the end for me. I need to have the education to back me up. And so I went back and I got a degree and learned more about criminology and sociology and that kind of thing. And just people really, it's amazing once you find your topic and your passion. It just flies by. Whereas school was kind of difficult for me in the beginning. I well, the wall came down. I'm going to withdraw. I think I have strep throat. I'm going to withdraw. You know, just always finding reasons to leave. I'm going to go get married in Holland. So, yeah, so I did all these different things. But finally, I found what I loved, and I just blasted through those classes. And they thought it would take about a year and a half or 2 years for me to finish, and I did it in, a year and a summer. So, so it's amazing when you find your calling. So now I've gotten a few other jobs, and I've worked in residential treatment, I've worked in alcohol and drug, and I've worked with kids, I've worked with adults, I've worked with parents. I've got all these like amazing experiences. But there's this one thing that eludes me, and that is, how do I bring these life skills home? Okay. I don't know. Well, it took having kids to figure this one out. So what happened was that I have 3 boys, and they were, I want to say like 3 and 5, like twins that are 3 and then 5. And they're like, I'm pulling my hair out, I'm getting, bald patches. And they're just running amok, and they're just like running all over the place. And I'm having to like remind them to brush their teeth, and picking up shoes, and make your bed, and that's not okay to wear to school, like all that stuff that really kind of takes away from getting ready for work. It's exhausting. I don't know how people do it. For all of you out there that are still doing this, I am with you. I feel your out. So I had this epiphany. I had this, just, wait a minute, Jen, you goofball. That's not exactly what I said, just for the record. Just keeping it G. But I was like, what a silly person. Like, you actually have the kind of job that you're supposed to bring home. This teaching the life skills thing. I mean, I was always kind of communicating right, not managing my stress really well, actually. Here's my pride. Horrible at managing stress. But I was doing all this other stuff. So anyway, so now I'm like, okay, I need to bring it home. Oh, I'm bringing it home. Let's see how this can work. So I'm taking all of the stuff that I had facilitated in prison and worked with the inmates, teen moms, and what was important to kids and them, and residential treatment centers. And then they had this reward system that was awesome. That wasn't, like tons of money. It was like allowance was based, on it, about earning points and, completing what was necessary for the day. And I thought that, let's throw this all together, mix it together, and create something. So I did that. I created I call it a game because it's more enjoyable. But really, it's like a tool. It's a parenting tool disguised as a game. And so they have you write down these expectations of what you want your kids to accomplish for the day, or what your expectations are. You have the conversation with your kids. What kind of things do you think you can do? Because if you think about it, at 3 and 5, they were learning how to tie their own shoes. They were learning new responsibilities. It was time to step up the game, right? So so we started writing down some responsibilities that would be real easy for them to accomplish. Brush your teeth. They've been doing that for years. But the key was brush your teeth without me having to ask you to do it. Then it was make your bed, be respectful, help your brother. I mean, all these like really cool things, but nothing that was really structured before. So I'm not kidding, and I'm really not kidding. Within we implemented it, and within 24 hours, like the next day, I was a half an hour early for work. Not to leave. I was a half an hour early, like to get ready to leave out the door. And I was like, what is going on? Like, it really didn't click what had happened. And then I realized it. Is that I'd been able to get ready for work. I'd been able to actually take a nice shower. All these like things that we take for granted when we don't have kids, I was able to do. So that was like, oh, okay, I am bringing it home. So now we've got communication, and we've got team building. We've got all these things that have worked in the game. And then we added to it. I added I added some of the program lessons, like, and made it turned it into an online course, so people could, work at their own pace, and kind of restructured it so that they could work on it on their own pace, which was cool. And so, once again, now I've got people that are talking to me about utilizing these skills. Communication, for example, is the easiest one to go with. I'm working on conflict resolution. Now this is how I'm doing it, and what are your suggestions? So that conversations are starting. So anyway, so here we are. We're successfully in the home getting parents and kids alike to work together on life skills with a curriculum that can be standard. So so that is kind of like wraps up that piece of my talk, and it goes into the next part, really important, because then it's like, where's the next step? Why am I seeking this platform? What am I looking to do? Because it doesn't end here. Like I used to, I made the game, that was 6 years ago. That was a while ago. And so when I'm looking at it now, I've been doing life skills and teaching, facilitating, and creating curriculum and doing all 25 years almost. That's insane. Anyway, so for that long I've been in this environment and in this, what keeps me going, and it's first of all, the job's not done. Second, there's a lack of understanding, I think, and I can certainly see it in my own family, extended family, where the importance of having life skills and not having them be stigmatized, or not, just asking for support is okay. You are okay. You are exactly where you're supposed to be at this moment. You're doing what you're supposed to be doing, and it's okay to have a moment where you need support and you just need somebody to tell something in a different way, and you just have this aha moment, and then you move forward. It happens to me all the time. I have these books behind me that sometimes I'm just stumped and I don't know where to go, and despite all of these, friends that I have to call, and it's like I need something and I'm not sure what it is. So I go to my list of experts, and I'll just, thumb through a book, and, something comes to light. I was like, that's what I needed. Power of intention. That was my message today. That's my intention. That's a good message. So, that's where I want to keep this movement going, because I loved being, calling myself an owner. I loved being a creator, inventor. That was cool for a while. But now I think I've settled. All that other stuff can go. I don't care about titles too much. But I like the idea of being a life skill advocate. Speaking up for life skills and speaking up for people that need that support. And need the support to be supported almost, right? That's part of the conversation that I'm asking you to have, really, is how can we take out judgment when people ask for support? It's almost like you're seeing like it's a weakness. The other piece is that, and I get triggered with it all the time, because it's the judgment thing that drives me insane. Judgment is so useless. It just gets in the way. But I want to say, for when working with inmates, I saw some amazing change. Okay, change is inevitable. It happens. The fact is that when these kind of things happen, and there's change that happens, the inmates are going to come back home and live in your community. And for the most part, I don't always see a great response or reception waiting for them from the community, from society. It's hard to get a job. It's hard to, you have to, if it's a sex crime, you have to register. I get all of that. I really do. I get all of it. But, there was one example of someone that I when I was speaking at a conference, and he was there, and he was sharing. He was a graduate, and he had gotten the job after. I think it's important to note that his crime was not a high risk. He was not at high risk to reoffend, is what I'm trying to say. So he and it was parents pressed charges because he had sex with his girlfriend who was underage, and he was young too, but he was over 18. I think it was like 19 or something. And I don't want to debate or really go into any conversation about that issue, because that's, everybody gets to have their opinions as far as how they feel about that. But I do think that it's important to acknowledge that, when he was judged already, he went in front of a judge, he was judged. Then he served his time. Now he's home, gets a job, he's got a fiance, he's got a convertible car, things are looking great. There's this one little thing that he didn't do. He didn't mark down on his job application that he had been convicted of a crime. Again, I recognize the importance of being honest, and you can't. It's a really tricky scenario, a situation, but he didn't. Now, he gets fired, of course, and loses his job, and I don't know the rest of the story. I don't remember if he stayed engaged or not, but or kept the car. But I do know that he lost his job, and my question really is, now what? Like, if these people, now I'm going to have him represent everyone again. So if these people are going to get out and come back in your community, they've taken all these courses that your tax-paying dollars have paid for. Because some prisons do have courses that are worthy. Now they're back in the community. How are they going to be able to be successful? Because they have family members. I want them to be able to support their family and pay their taxes and go to PTA, and I want that for them. I want everyone to have a successful life. So you can't. I personally don't think that it's realistic to put this huge cloud over them and then judge them again because they're not being successful when they're getting out of prison. It's strain. It's stressful. You leave a bad scenario and you can't afford to pay for your family. You commit crime in order to meet your needs, and then you have to pay for the crime because you get caught, and then you go back to the same scenario. Where exactly are they supposed to change the behavior? And that was when they learned the social skills, they got their GED, maybe in prison, or they, there's all these different programs out there. Change, again, is inevitable. It's going to happen. But I'm asking to make part of the conversation, if you're going to be part of that change and have an impact, part of it's going to be about how you kind of maybe shift your feelings a little bit about the full experience. I'm going to leave you with one last story. When I was reading one of this story about a man who went on a train, and I honestly don't know if this is a true story. But it resonates with me, and I can picture it being true. So he goes on a train, and he's sitting down, and then the train stops, and a family gets on, a father and 3 children get on. And the children are just going crazy, and they're being really disrespectful and rude to the dad, and passengers are starting to get uncomfortable, and he's getting uncomfortable and stressful. And as I'm reading this, I'm like, oh my God, I would go nuts. Like, how would I respond to this? And I'm thinking, how would I use my social skills to be able to communicate with this guy? And I can't really think of anything. But then he finally decides he's going to just tap him and ask if he recognized that his kids were not behaving. And the father says, oh my gosh, thank you so much. I'm so sorry. They just lost their mom. Ouch. Oh my God. like that just changed the whole story for me. All of a sudden, I'm like, those poor kids. I mean, yeah, they're not allowed to be misbehaving and stuff, but all of a sudden, that piece of the puzzle gets slid in, and suddenly the judgment goes away. Like, I get why they're misbehaving. They're mad at the world. They're frustrated. They're sad. They're scared. They're desperate, right? And so that impacts their behaviors. And so suddenly I'm like, what else can I do different to support that family? And really, again, it's just, and I only bring up that story just because it's that for me, it was that kind of big eye-opening moment where I went from one perception of the story to, like, it just blew open. It totally changed the story. So I'm hoping that something similar happens for you. What is next? So now, so obviously I still sell the game. It used to be called Flinder because it was Flinder with butterfly and Dutch, and my kids were part Dutch. But then we've changed it now to Say Please, and I'm going through this whole rebranding thing, and it's pretty cool. And now I'm opening the doors and letting other professionals come in and share their material, because, I mean, really, if I were to learn anything from my Michael, it was there's strength in numbers, and there are things out there. I'm sure there's a better story than the dream story to be able to open those eyes for you, and if they need to be opened, if I have a point. So inviting these other professionals to the table is where I'm at right now, so that, again, it's that idea of networking and being able to provide and advocate for what I feel is, something that I can stand for and put my work hours towards. That's why I'm here. That's why I do what I do, and that's why I'm passionate about it. And I will continue on. I don't know where I don't know if I'll ever. My family has honestly asked me, when are you going to stop paying your soul? And I'm like, no, never. Probably never. It's a worthy cause, and I hope that I've used my time wisely for the end of the week. Thank you again for letting me be here. The walls, hopefully, are blown open a little bit. You can see a little bit more and allow more information in. And contact information is at the end. Thank you for listening. And again, I hope I got one of you. Just write in the comments if I got you. Just curious. Thank you.